presentation, but we'll switch over for the one presentation that that you probably want to be able to see on the screen anyway. Those on Zoom will see what I have on my screen. So an unusual advantage this time. Normal Heights Planning Group envisions a healthy, vibrant community that honors unceded May land and cares for all inhabitants. We prioritize inclusive and equitable land use, valuing people over commodification. Through pedestrian-friendly infrastructure, transit-oriented development, open space preservation, and affordable housing, we strive for a vibrant and sustainable neighborhood. Additionally, we promote responsible economic development that supports historic preservation, local businesses, fosters job opportunities, and enhances the overall economic vitality of Normal Heights. So the agenda setting and modifications. Does anyone on the board have a modification for today's agenda? Okay. Items may be addressed out of order based on time or availability of the attendees. The chat is not considered an official communication, but if you would like, you can always leave your name in there for the attendance and an email address if you'd like to be added to our mailing list. And these proceedings are being recorded and they'll be posted publicly on our website in a few days after the meeting. Next up is non-agenda public comment. We have 2 minutes per person, unless extended by the chair. Please stay on topic. Questions, additional questions can be answered offline. Our civic representation, our guests to be treated with the utmost respect. Try to be as factual as possible. From anywhere in the world. Still no horses. Do we have anyone up for public comment? And that includes those on Zoom. Yes.
For the Heights Fire Safe Council, just wanted to show you my progress that we will be having a memorial of the 40 years from June 30, 29/30 this year. This is not a final flyer, but I wanted to let you know there's something concrete about it. And if you'd like to have an airdrop further draft, I do have one on my phone, just didn't have enough time to print it up. Anyway, so on the 29th, we're going to have a little work party, and I'd like designations. We're talking like trimming near the zero zone of someone's home, possibly and hopefully maybe a senior or a disabled person. This is going to be really low budget. In other words, bring your green bin, your sturdy shoes, your gloves, your hat, and per permission from the owner, we'll do some of that cleanup. And then on Monday, the 30th, from 6 to 8, so noon to 4 on this Sunday, the 29th, and 6 to 8 on Monday, we'll have a sort of a sunset, shall we say, cheers, we did a good job these 40 years, let's keep up the good work. So a sunset toast, if you will. So any questions after the meeting or to have that invitation airdrop to you? I've got it.
Do you mind saying your phone number out loud?
Phone number 619-301-9853. I do also have an email that would be Normal Heights FSC. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay, but it's being recorded. FSC@yahoo.com. If you'd like to inquire or designate such a property. And of course, this would be with the owner's permission. We're not just going to take our shears and start hacking away. And possibly there's like, let's say, palm fronds in someone's canyon, accessible canyon that can be brought up and chopped up. My husband did such an event on Sunday. It worked well. So let's see if we can't help. Give back first, make an intro to the neighborhood, and then do a little toast that there was no lives or even pets lost. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Dan, and then Yes,
I was thinking of Suzanne Lettebear today. She has a great history of Normal Heights. It's available online with the San Diego History Center, or they call the well, you know what I'm talking about. The History Center, I think. Okay, anyway, but one of her initiatives that she really cared about a lot, and she was on top of it for many years. It concerned what happens to the historic stamps that are on the curves of old streets from the 1920s. For example, my street is 38th Street. It used to be Thomas Street. And I still remember the word Thomas near the curve, the intersection. And the other, so she fought to have those, if they're redoing the sidewalks, those would be saved. Correct, so to speak. They laid in the new curb that would get placed in there. They were doing that for quite a while. And if they ever blacked off on it, he was right there to, he really had let them know, it needed to do that. Well, she's not around anymore, unfortunately. So I'm noticing more and more that those curb stamps are being saved and incorporated. And the other thing that is related to that, the sidewalks are replaced. She thought to have the design lines that were in the sidewalk. I'm not talking necessarily the space lines would be this way, but often the sidewalk that had a scoring line that was a design. And this all came into focus for me because on my street, a big section of sidewalk was done. The continuation of the historic score lines was not repeated in the new sidewalk. I just kind of wonder who she laid the hammer on when she talked to somebody about it. But I don't. I miss her, and wish she was here to answer that question.
I believe we,
Stand next to the work crew and say, you need to save this piece. And then I'll take it back to my office, and when you're ready to do the paving, I'll bring it. It's really hands-on.
Yeah, but I think you also got that. And here's the other question I have, was, I'm not so sure the city has that much to do with these sidewalks getting replaced, because it looks like these are subcontracted projects.
Right.
And guys are working out of the back of their pickup truck.
well, I know Sarah from D9 is on the line, so I imagine she's taking some notes on that.
Oh.
Make sure that this might be something that gets evolves into something greater. Yes.
Well, I'm, can I have your 2 minutes?
Yes.
Um,
Take 5.
so I'm glad you brought Suzanne up because this is right in. I remember I was at in a meeting and Suzanne was sitting right across. And we were talking about the equality of above atoms and below atoms. And she made the comment, oh, those people get enough already. And I said, Suzanne, I'm sitting right here. And she just like looked up and it's big. And I'm here to, in the past, I've come to like try to educate you. That's the easement, the city owns it, but you have to take responsibility for it. That's why it's got in the back of the truck. Very expensive for many. But in the past, I've tried to educate, which I'm surprised you didn't know that. But tonight, I'm here to chastise. That was so embarrassing, that last meeting. I mean, how transparent. You talk about equity in your affirmation, and yet this planning group seems to be like just not even all of above atoms, like only a quarter of the population lives north of Adams. And yet the focus is totally on Mountain View. The Canyonlands are designated as parklands, so the city's responsible for them. The undergrounding is along Mountain View, not the rest. Not in my neighborhood, it looks like frickin' Tijuana. I mean, the lines in the alleyways are just hanging. That's my 2 minutes. But anyway,
Thank you for
this
this.
is, it's self-pleasing. Let me wrap it up then, and that'll remind me to wrap it up, because as you know, I could go on. So this idea that the canyon people on Mountain View can't have ADUs or infill development because of the fire hazard is really blatantly, plainly not in my backyard. South of Adams, jam it in, no infrastructure, nothing. On my street, no, I'm concerned 40 years ago, there was a fire and we had to evacuate. And yet today, we're just now 2 years on from the floods that devastated part of the district we're in, 9th district. And yet, flood control and street sweeping and stormwater is last on the list. And this group is like going, I don't want development in my area. Get the homeless people out of the canyons, for I'm afraid. I'm sure that there's a tie in there, but I'm not a professional speaker. But if anybody is unclear about how unhappy I am about this really blatant, not in my backyard, and your backyard is fine, and because of fire in Pacific Palisades, I'm from that area. And this is not Pacific Palisades, it's not geographically, it's not anywhere near this. So
Well, thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
You make some very good,
I
very good
continue
points.
to be disappointed with this group. I'm glad you brought up Susan, and I don't think people south of Adams Avenue do get enough already.
You make a very good point. Thank you. If we don't have any other public comments, I'd like to go around for attendance. Today's question will be castle or cottage, which would you prefer to live in? Okay, and Dan.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up.
I guess.
I know.
Wait, if you would, I've got something for you immediately after this that you'll be interested in. If you'll stay just a few minutes.
Well,
Okay.
no, if we were talking about the pizza topic, that would be different.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Well, that was meant to be an insult.
We have a sense of humor. Yes. Oh, got it.
Okay, Sammy Burrows Cottage. Julia Corbett, definitely a cottage.
Okay.
Cottage for.
Paul Coogan, I used to be a castle guy, medieval times, the whole bit. Now it's cottage. I think it's easier to maintain.
Helen Bartolo, I've never been in a castle or cottage, and you're fine with me. Ryan, I'll do a cottage.
Okay,
Any Patrick, treehouse.
nice.
Like a lot.
Okay,
Castle.
Yes. castle or cottage.
That's the Waller College.
Okay. Jacob is not here tonight. He did turn in his resignation. He was hoping to be here tonight, but, something came up and he couldn't make it. So, we're now down one, member on the board, which means that we need to take nominations. And I know, Art, you were, running in the last election, and if you're still interested, I'd encourage you to, submit a request, and you can do that directly with me.
I was trolling you.
Yeah,
Again, not a drill.
okay, okay. I am, difficult to muster. And I really do appreciate your input, especially when we're talking the north and south divide on Adams. This, Normal Heights is not Pacific Palisades. We're the area that's forgotten most by the city. We're overlooked because we don't have enough money to pull in political power, nor do we have enough destitute residents to pull in grant money. And so we end up as sort of either overlooked, ignored, or a dumping ground. And so I hear what you're saying about streets and alleys, flood zones, and all of that, and I take it seriously.
It's not my place to disagree with you, but I strongly disagree with all of that. There is enough money. It just goes to, you guys don't have enough time to, in the 25 years that I've lived in this district, even though it's changed district, the misuse, selfishness, entitlement, and dare I say corruption, can't prove it, but it looks like it. You know, and just, it maybe if we weren't so beholding to the developers, this would be a better neighborhood, which would make it a better district, which would make it a better city.
Well said. Thank you.
Well, let's do it then.
All right. We'll move down to the next item on the agenda within the power that we do have. Next up is presentation on ADU bonus program reform that's currently in progress with the city. So if you're able to get it. See if the projector actually behaves. And I might need to change it. Let's see. Yeah.
Before you start, does anybody know when they changed the granny flat to ADU? When I moved to San Diego, it was, oh, we're gonna solve the housing problem with converting drive-ins into granny flats.
I think
The
that,
language name.
yeah, I think
Oh,
that,
yeah,
I think that the language was determined
I'm
ages,
sold,
and they
I-
wanted to,
When did they change the language?
I can hardly think of a question that I don't know the answer.
it doesn't look like it's gonna behave.
Just Bill.
That's okay. Well, I'll just read it off the page. I'm gonna share, I'll share for the folks on Zoom.
Have a, so, I'm not sure what.
Oh, it's because it's searching for a signal and it's just not picking it up.
Okay.
That's okay. So, what's currently going on is that the planning department is reviewing the bonus ADU program. Because their original intent with the program was to create, human scale, small infill development. Backyards, homes over garages, these kinds of things. The state already had a bonus, had a ADU program to fast track this kind of build, which makes it easier to build 1 or 2 units. The San Diego bonus ADU program built on that, and basically did it based on the amount of land you have. So they went with floor area ratio, which basically if you have a large lot, you can stack as many as you could in there. And developers have gained that to build up to 126 or even 140 units on a single parcel. That's not the city's intent. That's multifamily dwellings, which then require additional infrastructure, like there's additional requirements for fire hydrant spacing, rescue, evacuation routes. There's a lot more complexity with multifamily housing. And it was a way for developers to put multifamily basically into a different zone. So the planning department acknowledges this, and they are working through infrastructure needs, the fee structure, the development impact fees that are paid by developers that fund fire stations, libraries, parks, and so on. The development scale, they're looking at making sure that it's that it's not scaled up to something that is inappropriate for an area. So you don't have like a single family home or even a small apartment building with some kind of tower next to it. They're also looking at the how the parking is regulated with that. The state requires less parking than if you had a single family home. So they're looking at how to fit that, maybe get one more parking space or require that the anchor home retain its parking space. And then the compliance for affordable deed restrictions. There's the bonus program requires that there is deed restricted affordable units built, but the deed restriction is only 15 years and the mortgages are usually 30. So there's a way for the developers to kind of make enough money over the time and gaming it that way. Need to have stable, affordable rents over a longer period than 10 or 15 years. The standard is usually 55 years. Evacuation routes are being looked at, especially in the very high fire hazard zones. They're thinking of maybe peeling back the bonus program within those zones and only allowing the state addition. So people could still build 1 or even 2 units, but they wouldn't be able to build 4, 5, 6, and even 50 on these lots that are in fire hazard zones. Also looking at fire code requirements for multifamily buildings, because if you have an apartment building with 6 units, you need to put in sprinklers, but if it's quote unquote an ADU, then they don't have to put in sprinklers. And then the setbacks need to be consistent with fire brush management, and Susan was just speaking to that earlier. The next couple slides, I'll go this community planning committee, which is all of the CPGs together, make recommendations to the city. So they've made a series of recommendations on changes. So the first one is a sunset clause. The current city policy is permanent. The bonus ADU program has no end to it. CPC is recommending that that program be sunset with the housing element. So the housing element in the general plan determines what housing is needed in a particular cycle, and then they try to build to that. So if it needs to be renewed for need purposes, then they should renew it, but it should have a sunset clause on it. On density, this current policy is that there is it's location dependent. If you're inside of a sustainable development area, which is 1 mile from transit, that's unlimited ADUs can be placed on the property. It's only limited by the lot size. And outside of a sustainable development area, the limitation is 4 to 5 units. And the CPC is recommending that there be a maximum of 4 dwelling units for all parcels. So then that would align with the definition of multifamily housing by the federal government's housing and urban development. It would align with SB 9, which is the lot splitting law that was just passed in Sacramento last year. And then trash services are also being looked at as a 4-unit breakover. So if you have more than 4 units on a parcel, they need to have a commercial hauler. So this trash service change that's coming up would also align with this. And the last item is financing regulations. If you have more than 4 units on a property, you have to have a different form of financing if you were to purchase that property. So these things will make it easier for both developers and also for the community. Well, I'll take questions at the end. For the zones, the current city policy was looking at the the planning department was looking at omitting RS 5, 6, and 7. Now, the single family homes that are north and south of Adams are in RS 17. Small lot. And the idea was that the city was thinking that RS 7 contains all small lots, so we don't need to deal with developers building 18 units on a lot because they can't fit it in. But that's not necessarily true. Within RS 5, 6, and 7, we have found lots that are very large. And so those exceptions end up being pockets that a developer can come in and purchase and build a lot of units on. That then drives up the land cost for that particular parcel. So if you have a single family home on a large lot, suddenly it becomes more valuable than its neighbors because it needs sort of a development opportunity. So by applying this across the city, it would make it a lot simpler in terms of the code. Next one is height. The current city policy limits the builds to 30 feet, but unlimited stories. So if you're extending down into a canyon, you could get 3-4 stories by extending down into a canyon, and then you're coming up 30 feet from the curb. So that would be 3 stories, 10 feet per story. The recommendation from CPC is 16 to 18 feet for attached structures and 25 feet for detached structures. So a detached and a limitation of 2 stories. So 25 feet with 2 stories, those are fairly tall ceilings. Next up is setbacks. Currently, there's a 0-foot setback on the side when it abuts residential property. That means that whoever builds first wins because the neighbor can't build at 0 without coming up against the neighbor's building. So the CPC is recommending a 4-foot side and rear setback. This also helps with access for fire departments so they can get between buildings on a particular parcel. Then there's an open space requirement. The city policy does not require any private space or common space on a parcel within RS zones, residential zones. But if they build the same thing in a mixed use zone, then they do have a requirement for private space and common space. These are the open space that you would see like in a bungalow court. It has an open space that is common area. And then each person has a little small backyard kind of thing off their back porch. Oddly, it's not required for residential zones, but it is for mixed use. So that's very confusing for developers. The CPC recommends making it more cohesive, just having the same, you have to have the same private exterior space and same common space across all zones. Parking is always a hot spot. The city policy requires 0 spaces within the sustainable development area. The state allows 1 space when you're greater than a half-mile walk to any transit, not just high quality transit. So the CPC is recommending some similar configurations because they're constrained by state law. Fire hazard zones, the city state law recommends other safety improvements for when there's more than 30 units. So that means if you have more than 30 units on a parcel, you would have to have Schedule 7A construction, you would have to have sprinklers installed. CPC recommendation is that there would be no bonus ADUs in the very high fire hazard zones, and any cul-de-sac or loop that has a single point of ingress egress. The planning department has said that they like that idea, and they will and they are including it in their recommendations. So within the very high fire hazard zones, which is granted a lot of San Diego because of our canyons, the state bonus ADU program would still apply. So people who live on a canyon, they would still be able to put a unit over their garage or in their backyard. They just wouldn't be able to put 4, 5, 6 units. For affordability, this one gets a little tricky because of all the different scales of, how, affordability is configured. Currently, the city policy looks at having 110% of AMI, the average median income. So, I think for Normal Heights, we're looking at about 100,000 roughly, depending on where you live. So that means that you, in order to qualify, you would have to have, it would be 110% of, that you have to be making below 110% of that median income. So that's not all that limited. There's, the CPC is recommending a more scaled approach where there would be more affordable units available, the lower end. Most of the builds right now are for moderate income or high moderate, rather than low and very low. Short-term rentals, the current policy states that the ADU that's built can't be used as a short-term vacation rental, but it doesn't say anything about the main house. So what people are doing is building an ADU, moving into it, and then renting out the main house as their short-term vacation rental. The CPC recommends that the restriction be at the parcel level, so that the shell game can't be played. That would bring more long-term rentals onto the market, because right now they're doing the shuffle. They're not actually adding anything to the housing inventory. Last item, sales. CPC is recommending the allowance to allow individual sale. The current city policy only allows selling to charities. So you could sell your ADU in the backyard, but only to a charity. The city and state are proposing to allow individual sales. So that's, that one's probably gonna go through. Questions? And I can't say that I have the answers because most of this is coming from a lot of different sources. Yes.
So what I heard was, you know, you had a lot of detail, but virtually everyone sounds like it was written by a development corporation for their own benefit. And I thought it was really funny, you know, because Sanders, the former police chief, mayor, and current Chamber of Commerce man of the year, he lives in a ADU excluded area. Of the people that live in San Diego, this is for the benefit of the corporations. Oh, and the restriction on what do they call that, bed and breakfast? Excuse me, I'm elderly, I forget. Airbnb, that is the wet dream of the hotel owners, which are, a lot of them are development corporations, very complicated. So this is not for us. This is another dream for the developers. And, you know, maybe you can say, well, no, look at, but it has been since the day I moved in. Where's the parking for these ADUs? None. I mean, I came here, I drove here, and I know I'm not gonna have a parking space when I get back. So anyway, what I'm saying is that I doubt the veracity or the benefit of anything that you presented here. That, you know, if I'd ever seen anything different from the city, the planning department, or this group, I would have doubts, but it's been really consistent. We get enough already.
Okay.
Good point.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, so just, if I'm understanding this right, so almost all Normal Heights is in a transit minority area, right? The 11 along Adams, pretty much a mile each way, right?
Yeah, there's a small island right around this building actually, that is not within the EPA, because that's a half mile from transit as the crow flies. and that's the state definition.
Alright.
And then there's a sustainable development area, the SDA, which is 1 mile of walking distance. So we are completely within SDA,
Yeah.
except for a couple of tiny fingers out on the very north end.
far north.
Yeah.
So so under this, you're allowed up to 4 units if you're in the SDA, right? So that, assuming that there's a certain amount of space, right? There's a certain amount, the lot is a certain kind of floor area ratio. So like for your typical lot in Normal Heights, that's like, 6,000, 7,000 square feet, a lot of them. How many ADUs could you actually build on like a 6,000 square foot lot in Normal Heights? Would it be 4 or would it be something less than that?
It's 0.55, isn't the metric, 0.55 for the square foot. So if you do the
There you
math, you've already got a 2,400 square foot house. Subtract that, and then that's what you're allowed.
Well,
So a good example is,
percentage for 1,200 square feet, whichever is smaller. So you can have a 10,000 square foot house, your ADU stops at 1,200 square feet. But if you have an 800 square foot, this is also being legislated.
Oh,
In the
you
real
have
estate
to
community.
the house.
What? What?
You were saying,
Yes, so
yeah,
to answer your question, floor area ratio is 0.7. If a lot's 10,000 square feet, you can build 7,000 square feet of livable space. I'm not sure how you cut it up, but the FAR is roughly
Okay.
0.7.
Okay.
And to qualify for, and we know there's many other ways to call something else you could live in, but for the ADU conversation, until it's legislated differently,
it's not 0.55, okay.
no, that's the FAR. Floor area ratio is 0.7. I'm not talking,
so that's how much floors, how much floor can you lay out on your building compared to the land that it's.
and it has to be buildable. If you're on a canyon and there's a steep drop, it's what's buildable. Not the whole,
Right,
you have an acre, you can't build.
what an appraiser would appraise it at.
Do you, go ahead, sounds like,
Oh, I was gonna say, there's a pretty good example of what you can do on Collier, where the house goes all the way to the alley and and so it kind of has a sides onto Collier. And they have built 4 ADUs in the back, so there's like,
Okay.
they're stacked up and they
Yeah.
basically filled the backyard, which was big enough for a fairly large lot. You could have put one more house there, but it's gonna be pretty tight with 4 units. Let me take John and I'll come back.
Okay, good example is, I buy San Diego wants to build the lot next to our house. The lot itself is 7,010 feet. They're allowed 17 units.
Under the current rules, under the new rules, they wouldn't be allowed that. They wouldn't be allowed that.
Under the new rules, they would, they're in a very high fire hazard zone. And so they would not be able to take advantage of the bonus program and they would only be allowed 1 ADU and 1 JADU. And I'm not even sure how they would configure it because they took away the anchor house, so they would have to build a new anchor house and then do the bonus, I don't know, or do the ADU on top of that. I don't even know if it's like all one permit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Oh, I just wanted to follow up. There are different bars in the neighborhood because we do have different zonings. So in the RM zones, I think the bar is 1.0. But that's much of the area south of Adams. And the first block north of Adams. Mostly RMs. There's a few areas that are RF.
yeah, so the property that I was describing actually is just inside the RM. That Collier is like the break point. Anyway, yes.
I was gonna ask you to elaborate on the affordability side, when you have like the AMI breakdowns.
Yeah.
Is that talking about like who the ADUs rent to, who like builds them, who owns it, like who are we talking about?
That's something I'm not really up to speed on.
Well, I think
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the idea with the bonus program is that you build an affordable unit is to get a bonus to be able to build another market rate. And
Yeah.
so the affordable unit has to be affordable. And so it has to be affordable to someone making, I think you said 100, the proposal is 110% of AMI, which varies depending on family size. But it would be basically, it would be 30% of that in monthly rent.
There we go.
Yeah, so that would be, so it's assuming that people are spending 30% of their rent on, their income on rent. So it has to be something where a person earning at least less than 110% of the AMI, spending 30% of their monthly income on rent, that's the max rent that they could charge. In order to be affordable units to allow them to build the bonus.
So that sounds like about $1,200 a month.
I think something.
For the
it sounds about
affordable.
right.
Okay.
Give it a public. So, and did you also say that the way things stand at the moment, the affordability for only 5 to 15 years?
Yeah, deed restriction is for 15 years, and in some cases, if you put in more affordable units, you can qualify for a 10-year.
So the CBC is saying, is recommending extending.
They're recommending using the statewide standard of 55 years.
Do we know why it's at 110% now and only deed restricted to 15 years, and why? Really, you could. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, like, I definitely agree that they should prioritize like bonus ADUs that rent to people at like very low income.
Yes.
Because there's like a huge problem in San Diego where all the affordable housing is people that are at like 100 grand line.
Yeah.
Which is 100 grand a year. So if anyone making less than that, like if you're at 50% AMI, earning around like 50, 60 grand or less a year, which is a lot of people, there's not really any affordable housing for you unless you get on Section 8. And that was something that was really frustrating for me when I was like working in housing services, because I couldn't even afford the units that were affordable and I was like working in the program. So I guess I'm saying I agree with this, but also I think that deed restricting it, I mean, personally, I think that it would be best if it was deed restricted indefinitely. If I could hear, I'm not sure what the argument is against that. I think it's usually development, but yeah, I guess if you have to say.
I've forgotten your name.
Julia.
Julia, you brought up a very good point, which is something I always bring up. Even though we say affordable family units with these young folks are very budget minded, they need to have, it makes sense. There won't be one income in that little tiny home, there will be two. And so then even if people are splitting a studio, I get it. That also, of course, trips off the, where are the cars gonna be? Because with those two come two cars. And so really it is a horrendous problem. The affordability for young folks is trying to, it hurts my heart that I see that happening. Because it shouldn't be. How that can be solved, I don't know, but in reality, there will be two people earning these incomes to afford that. Somebody said $1,200 a month, double that. It won't be $1,200 a month. I don't know where that would be. It'd be $1,200 per person who is sharing that 600 square foot tiny home. I would guarantee, and is that out of reason to imagine that?
Yeah.
Young folks will figure out how to occupy 600 square feet together? That's not an impossibility. There's no requirement for off-street parking. And in the very high fire hazard zone, no matter what our various esteemed colleagues might think or our neighbors here might think, the ingress egress of those areas where that, whether it's students, young folks, or disabled seniors, and excuse my vernacular, might be granny with her fanny hanging out over that very high fire zone with no fire sprinklers. Where's her car for efficient evacuation? And of course, if we raise the red flag about all that, fire station number 18 has told me they will solve it by red striping all of our streets,
What does that mean?
all of them.
They'll take away
That
all the
means
street
there will
parking.
be no street parking, no off-street parking for those phones they use, no street parking. for those bonus ADUs. So once again, a person like yourself and maybe the roommate, where are your cars? Where are they? In a fire, which yes, it was 4 years ago, but we are, despite what my esteemed neighbors might think, it's not an NB thing. Take a look at the Cal Fire map. It is pretty much what Paul mentioned is, the Canyon Room area where it's a nice location. It is very good, nice spot, but it brings up all of that. We're going to have to deal with a very ticklish situation. I like to overlay it with something I heard in the 1990s. I went to a sandbag meeting, and I was told under no circumstances will we ever solve our housing problem here in San Diego, no matter what we do. It's not that we should give up, keep the faith and keep trying, but we will never solve
I think I just want to say to Susan, it is a canyon route, the fire, yes, they'll begin on the canyon route, but will be going Pacific Palisades and ultimately, it doesn't take much for the fires to, so it's, with the right conditions. It's not just the canyons, we're talking the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So, with the second part, it's not really, but it really is like all of the red, you look at the, all of it, not the canyon.
And embers can fly a mile.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Embers can fly a mile.
absolutely, and do.
I think we'll take, you have, and then we'll take a break.
A lot of people are worried about people selling whatever they build and dividing the lot. Lenders are not okay
Right.
because they've loaned someone enough money for the size of the lot and the improvements sitting on the lot. And if someone tries to subdivide and sell, the lender can call the note due in full.
And further up, insurance companies want insurance.
Right, so while it might be acceptable at the city level to allow people to sell something that previously might not have been considered sellable, a lot of other entities are going to make it nearly impossible for anybody who has a loan or insurance.
So if you're taking out a loan, city, and it's uninsurable. I spoke with a gentleman last night. You probably all got a notification if you live in the area, but the new grounding has to happen here in 3DD. And he owns a legacy home. Yes, it is on Mountain View. He said his insurance company recently bought him. It is impossible for him to find insurance. And this is a property that was being passed, of course, along, handed down from the family. Grandfather to son to grandson. Okay. And through luck and by pluck, they were able to, 4 years ago, 1 month before June 30, 1985, get insurance. Put it back on there. Because of course, without a deed, you don't have to have insurance when you don't have a deed. But being passed along 1 month ahead, other than that, he would have had a beautiful lot with this after that fire happened. So no, it's not an easy task selling to make the affordability, the mix, the diversity, the beautiful diversity, the ways of love here happen. It's just this conundrum inside of the miserable side of the.
Thanks. We're gonna take 10, and then we'll come back and take care of a lot of business like the approving minutes and such. Resume report. And we're back.
Yeah, no.
Next up is the approval of the minutes for February.
They're all
So, because we have a new secretary, we want to be nice to her. We'll just do a quick roll call vote around the room for February. Starting here. Dan, do you approve the minutes for the February meeting of the NHTP?
I approve, and I can make a motion to approve.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, great. Okay, so, and we have a second.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
We voting or we?
voting on the February,
Yes.
okay?
I need to say, I was.
Abstain, okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
yes, and I'll do a yes. And Alan?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian's yes,
Yeah, he was not out there.
I'm not here.
okay, and 2 abstains, okay. Speaking of which, on February, I will change my vote to an abstain because I was not present at the February meeting. Let's move on to March. March, motion? Dan, you were good at motions. My motion for approval of the March meeting minutes?
A motion for the approval of the,
Second, okay. Alan seconds, go around the room, and Dan, you approve?
I approve.
Okay. Approve.
Approve.
2 approves, 2 more approve. Okay,
approved.
approve, I approve,
Yes. All right.
okay,
Abstain again. Yeah.
oh, 2 more abstentions.
Thank you.
Right, and we'll sort out. Well, you weren't seated until later, so that's good. Abstain's good. All right, April. We have a motion.
I'll start it.
All right, there's a move. Do we have a second? Okay. Now we'll take the vote around. Same.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Abstain. And a yes. And a yes. I'll take a yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And a yes. And a yes. Nice. Do you need any recounts or anything?
For March, Penny, did you say yes?
Okay. Excellent. Next up is community updates. CPC, the Community Planning Group, had a presenter from the Urban Institute who's offering training on urban planning. So it's an excellent opportunity to really learn and take a deep dive on urban planning. It's free and they serve lunch, but it is 6 hours long and it's on a Saturday. We'll have more information about when and where. We're still working that out, but I sent out a link to the board. It is open to the public, so I'll make sure that that link gets onto our website as well. And we'll figure out where that meeting is. But in the meantime, they're just kind of gathering the interest from the community, how many people would attend, so they can figure out like how many lunches to order. I'm not exactly sure on the details of what they're going to be teaching.
When is it?
I don't have a date yet.
Cool.
But mostly, are we interested? Yes. So if you go to their little sign up link, you just put in your info and let them know that you're interested. And then when they get the count and say, oh, like there's 30 people in the mid city that are interested.
Urban Institute?
Yeah, Urban Institute. And that's an in-person training. They have little exercises and things to do too. The other item was the trash fee was discussed. There's a lot of contention and issues around how it's being configured. And I'm not even going to go into the details on that, just say that there was a lot of discussion about it. Next up, government representatives. Sarah, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm still here. Hi, everyone. This is Sarah from Council Office District 9. I do have a few updates for you. First of all, I just want to say if you emailed me last month, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. I was out of office and I just got back 2 days ago. But if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email you and I'll respond to you as soon as possible. So let me just pull up my notes here. First, as some of you may know, the mayor released a first draft of the fiscal year 26 budget last month. You can view that online, and I'll put that in the link or on the chat, sorry. It is scheduled to release a revised version of the budget on or before Wednesday, May 14th. Our office is hosting a budget town hall. And that will be on May 16th at 6 p.m. Sorry, just 1 second. Sorry, I just had like tech issues. I'll go ahead and put all of that information in the chat. Are there any questions regarding the budget?
Sure, we'll take questions from the floor in public first.
Yeah, can we add a line item?
What is your heart's desire on the minimal amount of money that will be left?
Oh, thank you. Hi, Sarah. I would like, if, bonus EDUs can continue to be built. I would like a gigantic canyon. All we need to know is that the fire chief Butts from Lakeside wants to know on the bottom or at the top, so that he can come and read. So I'd like a line item for tank, gigantic tank. Well, I don't know what it would be, 100,000 gallon. I have no idea. But behind those bonus ADUs, minimum, because it's going to be a vegetation fire that's going to take us down.
I
Excellent.
appreciate.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate your feedback. Sorry, the voice is kind of cutting out a little bit. I think I'm not sure if it's my connection or your connection, Paul, but I got some of that, but I will go ahead and also put my email, and you can feel free to message me on
I'm
what
able to get message. Hi, Sarah. Can you hear me a little better?
I can, and there was just some like disconnection between the voice as you were talking.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, I can.
I talked with you last week at the Mid-City. So just I don't know, 100,000 gallon tank of water in the canyons in the very high fire hazard severity zones where ADUs, especially the abusive bonus ADUs, are permitted and built. Another line item on the budget. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. And like I said, I'm gonna put all of the budget or the information I just shared in the chat, and then Paul will share that out with everyone. I'm not sure if everyone caught that. Like I said, I was having tech issues, so anyway, so my next update is about Ward Canyon Park.
Before you go to the next update, do we have questions on the budget from the board?
Okay, yes.
By House Republican leadership.
No, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So for Ward Canyon Park, the storefront building, the abatement work is now complete, and the contractor has the demolition permit issued by the Development Services Department. They expect demolition activities to begin in the next week or so. The schedule remains predominantly the same, with the expected completion extending a few weeks into June. Any questions on
that? Any questions on the demo of the mock building? I think my question is on the demo, are they diverting some of the materials for reuse, or is it pretty much all straight to landfill?
I don't know that information, but I can check for you.
Oh, no, that's okay. If you knew off the top of your head, no big deal.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so my last update is about a utilities undergrounding program that is happening in Normal Heights. It's called Block 3DD. Basically, they're going to have 163 poles removed, 52 new streetlights will be placed, and the project will install or replace approximately 63 curb ramps within the project boundary. And there's going to be basically new reliable underground electrical, telephone, and broadband services. And they had their pre-design meeting just yesterday, and they're not having their pre-construction meeting until next year. But that will encompass a few streets within Normal Heights. I do have the map, but the map is very small, so I'm gonna go ahead and send you all the fact sheet for you to review. But that is the extent of my knowledge on this project. So if you have questions, feel free to email me on it, and I will go ahead and check with the transportation department.
Oh,
Okay, John,
There's also Gary online who
Sarah,
has hand raised.
can you hear me?
Yes.
yeah, go ahead.
Sarah, about the undergrounding meeting,
Mhm.
it pertains to Normal Heights.
Yes.
Why did they have the meeting in Mission Valley instead of in this wonderful building that we're in right now in Normal Heights?
That's a good question.
That
I'm not
doesn't make
sure.
sense.
The transportation department
Okay, I
organized the
would-
meeting, not the council office. So I don't have any information on why they held it in Mission Valley.
Yeah, because we've got this wonderful building here in Normal Heights where the people live that it affects. But we had to travel to Mission Valley,
Mhm.
which makes no sense.
Yeah, no, I understand your concern, but we had no say in organizing the meeting, so I can always ask them why they chose to have it in Mission Valley.
There may have been a schedule conflict, because this community center does get booked up. Not here? Yeah, okay. Go ahead, you have the floor. Sarah.
Make sure that the alternative minimum tax does not return. The alternative.
Was that it, Sarah?
Yeah, that's it on my end, but Gary has his hand raised.
Oh, yes, Gary, go ahead.
I just wondered on the mock building, what was going to be on that geography where it's once it's taken out.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question one more time?
What's going to be there? What are you replacing that with?
Oh, they're not replacing it with anything. It's going to be an empty space.
Is it a piece of dirt, or is there gonna some
I'm
thought?
not sure. I'm not sure if there's just going to be dirt there. All I know is just that they're not building anything in place of the building. So it's just going to be an open space.
Right, so Gary, I think the plan is to complete the entrance to the park so that so it has a little more symmetry. But there's no structures being built.
Well, it would be nice, for example, if someone thought about closing 39th Street where it hits Adams, because that is a traffic nightmare. And it would calm things down there. And you could even put in a few parking spaces. I mean,
That's a good idea.
This was something going on relative to thinking through how to take what little opportunities we have and accomplish something positive.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, thanks, that's a great idea.
And then I know Danielle also has her hand raised.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Paul?
Yes, we
Danielle.
can.
Okay, great. Earlier, you overlooked a few people on Zoom for non-agenda public comment. So I know you're doing 3 things at once, but thank you, Sarah, for recognizing us on Zoom when we raise our hand. So as to Ward Canyon Park, it would be very helpful to disseminate the existing GDP for the park so that people will know what's planned. I'm sure it's coming in phases. I know the community garden's coming soon. And there is that ongoing discussion with Caltrans of getting the last pieces when they redesign their on-ramps to Highway 15. So a GDP disseminated to the planning committee would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
Wolfgang Ischinger is the longtime former chairman of the Munich Security Conference and the former German ambassador to the US and UK.
Any other?
If there are no other questions, that's it for me.
Nancy.
Being formed today in Berlin
was demolished, they're supposed to put a fence up in front so they can, get up the street.
Yeah, isn't there a fence in the front?
When I think that building won't be.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, so Sarah, after the building is gone and the demo is done, we're hoping that there'll be a continuation of the fencing that we have that keeps kids contained in the play area.
Okay. I'll look into that with the Austin Parks Department about that.
And then they're supposed to put native plants in there.
Yeah. Okay.
And could you please leave those two tall mature trees in place when you take out the building?
Yes, I will ask them.
I think everything's on the GDP. The answer is the general development plan.
Well, the answer is keeping the trees.
I think that's on the GDP, Gary.
Sarah, is that it for you?
That's it for me.
Okay, I'm gonna move to. I have an update from the mayor's office via Fatima. And I'll read this out, and I've sent it over to Julia for inclusion in the minutes as well. We'll put it as an attachment on the website. Mayor Todd Gloria released the for FY 2026, addressing a projected $258 million deficit due to declining sales tax, lower franchise fees, and increased pension costs. The proposal aims to maintain public safety, homelessness services, housing efforts, and infrastructure repairs while minimizing service reduction. Key revenue measures. They're looking at 157 million in new revenues from parking meters and citation fees, modernized user fees, retail cannabis tax update, and income from the voter approved measures on Measure B, residential trash collection, and Measure C, hotel room tax increase.
In disguise.
Major investments in public safety, police department will get a $29.3 million increase and a $3 million overtime reduction. Fire rescue will get a $24 million increase to maintain emergency response without fire station brownout. A brownout is when you take an engine in a fire station and you unman it so it doesn't go out ever. It just stays parked. It allows you to have less staff, but it reduces the amount of vehicles that the station can put out. Homelessness services, 105 million total funding, supporting 17 shelters. Infrastructure, 83 million for street repairs, that's 290 lane miles. 48 million for stormwater project, supplementing the 733 million WIFIA funded initiatives. Service reductions, libraries to be closed Sundays and Mondays. Tutoring program reduced to 10 locations, although I heard that the after-school homework program has been saved. Recreation center hours cut from 60 to 40 hours. Seasonal collective park, renegotiation of the animal services contract, Humane Society. Staffing changes, 175 million in total department reductions, 393 positions proposed for elimination. 160 of those are currently filled with transfers available. The next, looks like next public budget review committee hearing May 5th through the 9th. And revised budget release will be May 14th. If you have any questions, I will forward them to Fatima because that's all I know. The next, El Cajon Boulevard Business Improvement Association, Gary.
Thank you. The association has been working on a master plan for the area between 805 and either 15 or Fairmont. I'm not sure. That this is kind of like Fusion. When is it going to be available in 20 years? No matter what decade you ask that. When is this master plan going to be held public meeting wise? And 3 months from now. It's been 3 months from now for 15 months now. And I want to say that that piece of El Cajon Boulevard is somewhat lacking in what it could be if there were decent development and infill of a variety of uses that went in there. And I would encourage this association to speak up on part of it. There are a few projects planned which will deal with affordable housing. The old Pancho Villas down at 805 is going to become one of those food stores. I'm
I think it
not
was Sprouts.
Sprout. And the Circle Sound building on the south side of the street has been upgraded and is becoming an entertainment center. There's a building across the street that's under construction. And there's a high rise coming out of the ground on the Kensington corner of the Transit Plaza. These are all ideas that have come forward in years past. There's been a lot of money and effort put into the freeway and the transit stops, the in-ground transit stops. And I would encourage this association to pay more attention to that and see if you could, among yourselves, figure out what kind of uses would work best there. It would serve the area. I want to mention one other thing. The park, they manage the Mid-City Community Parking District. And there is a grand jury report out now, which among other things, suggests that the community-based organizations that manage that are not being responsible with their resources. And the fact of the matter is that every dime that is raised through parking revenue is managed by the city. The parking district are recipients of whatever is left when all the calculations are done. And I would hope that we would really, and there is a suggestion in that report, the grand jury report, that perhaps the community planning groups could be the management authority for that. I don't see you necessarily wanting to do that. It would be involved managing all those resources and ensuring their allocations are wise allocations. The one thing that someone needs to understand is that parking is a nightmare now, and the city has done all of these things to reduce the number of spaces provided with various developments. And that is going to come back and haunt everyone if something isn't done to fix it. So there are some things like that, I think, where I encourage you to spend some more time thinking through and see if you can't provide the leadership on the community side that will involve fixing that area up and making it more friendly to the outside world and maybe set it up as a destination opportunity, which it really is not now. So thank you for the opportunity to comment on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, do you need to mute whoever's watching TV?
Yeah, I think we'll,
Yeah, it's hard to hear.
there we go. Okay, so, next up. Adams Community Recreation Advisory Group.
Yeah, I was like late for the meeting because on Tuesdays, I have to wait for our weekly or bi-weekly food delivery. So sometimes it's after 5 before they get there. So I ended up being at the meeting late. So I got in part of it and they were talking about the budget for the rec center and the hours. They're not gonna be able to go over 40 hours a week. So they've been giving quite more hours, and then the ones on the weekend, if they cut those hours, then they won't be able to have the projects, you know, the events that they're supposed to have, like Bobby Sports was there, and the other one, the Mid-City was there, talking about the budget, because if they're not there, they can't keep the rec center open, and they can't do their events that are on the weekends.
Interesting. So those events pay fees, right?
Right, like Bobby Sports, you know,
Yeah.
they can't have their games or, you know, they're paying a certain amount of money to have those, and if they cut those hours, then they won't be able to be there.
Right.
There's a lot into it. So. Talked about the budget.
Next up, Mid-City Community Plan update. I think Emily will have an update. Or did I see her online? No. That's okay. Historical property review.
There's nothing.
Thing to review, okay. I believe there's an inventory of those sidewalk markers. I've seen a spreadsheet at one point in my life
Right.
that has the markers listed where they are.
Well, that's, yeah, the initiative, what I'm talking about is, well, when they, for example, when they sold those, handicap ramps, which are wonderful, of course, everybody loves them, but, when they did that, they were supposed to save the
Yeah,
markers, and they did it. And not only the name of the street, but got them to save the original contractor's name.
yeah, the contractor plates, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the date. I noticed that on occasion when they couldn't save them, they did a reproduction.
Oh.
So none of that's happening anymore, and it went all up and down my street where I remember you the word Thomas in the curve, but it all got taken out.
See if I can find that inventory.
Yeah. It would be a clear indication of what's been lost. We had that inventory compared to the walk on the same street now.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that. Utility undergrounding.
So as Sarah mentioned, there was a meeting last night in the city called what was the technical term, a pre-design meeting. And there was, well, I wanted to, I wish I was right there, because I wanted to respond to something he said, you know, he kind of referred to underground being done up there. We elected to do northeast corner, Normal Heights, that's where they chose to go first. And there are 4 blocks, and the other ones are in line to be done. It just happens to be where they decided to go. We ask them to, if it's what they. Um. He gave this presentation. The process and what to expect and the images of some of the different ones. One thing people may or may not realize is that, yeah, the poles are going, the wires are going, it's gonna be older equipment. 20% currently is still above ground, so there'll be these boxes and they all pedestals and around things. And they'll be above ground and, if you have time and feel like it, we recommend people who will be affected by this to go over to Talmadge. It's already been on the ground and see some of the mistakes that will be done. To be done. So, I think there are over 440 properties, there are going to be 52 streetlights. There apparently is not another meeting until the pre-construction meeting, which is in a year, May of 2020. And so I'm not quite sure what they're doing for the next year, but you know, I think they're going to be going around and looking at properties. Part of the whole thing is looking at people. They do. Do it all over again. I don't. Bizarre to me, but, okay, so the thing that they did, is they're doing now, what I call what we could do, they have a survey for people who live in this block to give an opinion on certain things. Do you want these boxes to be all clustered together? Do you want them to be spread out? Do you want them to be on the sidewalk, which in my experience, based on what I'm going to tell you, better idea is the one for them within the right of way, that amount of in front of the property that belongs to the city. Because that way they're not impeding the sidewalk. And don't tell FCDD, but they can be landscaped. You know, once they're in there, you can do things. Anyway, they have this survey. Is there a way to get some connection to the survey somehow?
I mean, we could certainly put it on their website, but I think that pushing it out through social media is probably.
No, but we put it on our website.
Well, yeah, we have certain.
Community group website.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that if anyone wants to do that survey.
Yeah.
So then, so after the project, they talked about after the project, once it starts, which I think is going to be sometime in 2027. They said 36 to 54 months. And then afterward, there's going to be some pavement repair. There's going to be a program for repairing sidewalks in the areas that will be affected. And they mentioned a free tree initiative. Don't know what that's going to look like. And in terms of the maintenance assessment district with the special acorn lights, where we are with that is, we did get a majority response expressing interest in having acorn lights and having maintenance assessment.
Oh, good.
It's not binding, it's a kind of, testing the water, so to speak. And next week, Emily and I are meeting with, I forget his name, from Parks and Rec, and Parks and Rec is started this kind of stuff, so I think maybe at that meeting, we'll have a conversation about what is it actually going to cost each property. And, again, 5 years ago, it was now on to the 3 times. So, people may say, no, the trash fees or the water fees is too much, but anyway, we'll see. So, I think the next thing, once we have some figures, will be a more formal vote. Once we.
Well, good job getting a majority of feedback. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Quite a challenge.
And there were actually people at the meeting with the neighbor came over to me and they wanted to know, what, you know, let's find the acorn mites. Well, wait, it's not happening yet, it is, it might happen, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, but
Okay. Traffic calming?
Yeah, so we have two updates. We requested a traffic trail, speed trailer, which it was signs to tell you how fast you're going, supposedly so you see how fast, how far you're over the speed limit. We requested one of those and we have like temporary ones that for North Mountain View. Jenny Hall, our police officer who comes to the meeting sometimes, she's looking into it to see if we can actually get one of those. I have no idea if we will or not, but we've requested it. And the other thing is that we asked the city, the D9 office, about how we go about requesting traffic calming. We asked them a whole bunch of questions and everything in a traffic request and we'll look at it. And they really wouldn't give us any other details. Like we wanted to know like what types of requests are more likely to be successful or, you know, where, you know, what criteria they're using, all this other stuff. And they're very, they're like, just give us a request and we'll look at it. So I guess for this board, we need to think about how we, if and how we want to go about doing that in terms of like, do we want to just focus on a couple of areas which we think are really bad and just really push those? Or do we want to just come up with a grand list of all the traffic problems that we have in the community? Then all the different, you know, types of traffic calming things that we want, or yeah, and I guess you have a formal form that you can fill out to say, you know, we request traffic calming at this intersection or this thing or whatever. So, you know, that process is pretty straightforward. And we just need to decide like how we want to go about like requesting stuff and, you know, what, if we want to prioritize things or just sort of, you know, just request everything and the assumption they'll find out give us anything anyway. So, that's kind of where we're at.
Sure, I'm a fan of a surgical strike and an attrition. So if we ask them for one thing and we can get it, then we can go back and say, can I have another cookie?
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm good at that. Other people about doing this, and also if we are going to do that, then how do we decide what's going to be the first thing that we want to go ask for? How do we figure out? I think we'd have a discussion on the board, but do you want the committee to bring, you know, 3 or 4 different, you know, issues that have been raised like at the previous meetings, or is there some of the response?
Let's start collecting. Let's just poll the group. You can do that in the, you know, email exchange. It's a collecting data from the members, and all that goes into the Google group. So it's offline discussion and part of the committee. But we would all, anything that we would take action on, we'll bring back to
Right, yeah.
to the room. So
I think then maybe the committee will work on coming with a list of potential things that we could ask for, and then we'll bring it to a meeting, and we can discuss, you know, what we want to prioritize.
Yeah, yeah. I think the street from Arts House would be top of the list. Not very holding back when he's not here, I know.
To stand up for him, that alley is terrible.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, the flooding and Reading.
Yeah.
Of which, you know, they're supposed to grade the alleys after the rains. So yeah, so that's one of the things that we can request is if we have specific alley where the ruts are just out of control. We can submit that. We can get it done in, and then we can escalate on it. You're laughing. I'm a dreamer, I know.
Well, I can report that's not specific to calming, but I don't remember the link, but it had to do with streetlights and dark corners. And there's a specific link where you could request that it be looked at.
Okay.
And I did get a response, I would say inside of 30 days. I got a phone call and response and the phone number, and I was told, yes, it would determine that it is needed. And the other light kind of across the street, so I'm T, somebody described it as corner, and yes, it would be good. And we would change the bulb, and this one would be brighter.
Okay.
And then they let me know it would be it's in the unfunded.
Mhm. The unfunded list.
Right. But I still felt like they did listen to the request, and they
Yeah.
used that platform. Maybe you could find out if it doesn't exist, you could add a platform for people to specifically address comment.
Oh,
And that might be a
Okay.
solution.
right. Because then it would get on, it would move up into the unfunded list, so it's acknowledged, and then from there,
Right.
it's pushing.
But I will say the platform was
Funded.
easy to use.
Yeah.
And I got a response, that was a phone call confirming that I had done it. And I thought, I was impressed that that process worked.
Excellent. Okay.
Just
Yes,
remind me to send you the, unfunded needs list from a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, I'd be doing that.
yeah.
See what's already on them.
And there's also a street lighting analysis that Alan did. So there's like, because those lights have to be a certain distance apart and a certain brightness and so on. Community engagement finance committees, that was with Jacob, so we'll reassign that.
I have an update though.
Yes,
Um,
because you are now community engagement.
I guess I'm be on it and then like reading it, I don't. So anyone to join. Madison has come, but we were meeting like once a week, or once a month, sorry. Just to discuss different ideas for the upcoming meetings and ways that we can try and increase community engagement. If you're interested, just send me an email. One of the things though that we did discuss and get numbers on is you wanted to do like the real estate A-frame, like metal A-frame signs that like guide people to this location and put them out on the day of the meeting. So we already designed some and got quotes from Ego Media ID. The two names, so one's like, can't really see it, but like one was just saying like half a block away that we were thinking would be like on Adams and Holly, and then one that would be like right at the ramp, pointing in like, come in here, and it says welcome. And then have it scanned for more info if they need. But each one of those signs, it was only like $11 each. We were thinking 2 of them, so it's like around 22. And then I spoke with Kenny, who has, through his real estate business, able to get A-frame metal frames at a discount rate of like, I think it was like $30 each, you were saying,
Or less.
or less.
That's the one you found.
Okay, so like through his
I
license.
can buy them and donate them, because I get discounts if we purchase in bulk.
Okay, I mean, you don't have to, you do have like some.
I will let you know that the turnaround on actually getting the check in your
Yeah.
hand does take some time.
Okay, well,
So, you
if
know,
you'd like to, I think, I mean, people would probably be very gracious of that, that's very kind of you. So then we would just want 2 of those. So then the
The
other,
metal A-frame.
yeah,
yeah. But yeah, that was the thing that we were planning, so I guess this next month, I can, before Jacob leaves, he was the one that talked to Ego ID, so
okay,
have him speak with them to make sure we get it printed.
yeah,
And then that way we have some form of visible signage in the neighborhood on the day of meetings, so people can remember. And if they don't, then they can scan and so they be like, oh,
okay. And then we have the little half sheet, sort of postcard thing that,
Yeah.
I printed up a bunch of
oh, you
those.
printed more?
I can print as many of those as you want.
Okay, we might want to make some changes to it because I was at Blind Lady bartending and there were some people were like, what is, I don't understand. What is this for? Streets, lights, like they were just confused.
Right, it's eye-catching but not informative.
It is hard to tell where your eye is supposed to go. There's a like a call to action.
maybe we might wanna create some new staff ones too,
Yeah.
that like are a little bit more clear, like, do you have concerns about like, or like, do you wanna know what's going on in your neighborhood and the city, like, come attend this, you get access to the,
You-
local representatives, things like that.
You have access to the Canada file?
No, I just have, did my own Canva, but if we have a group one,
I just have one in my account. I'll just,
share it with me.
yeah, I'll share it with you.
Okay,
And you can go to town on it.
cool. I guess speaking of that, who is running the next door account?
Also, the next,
The next door account, because Jacob was taking that over, but that's, I don't know if there's anyone that's a big next door person on the group.
I've posted in there on occasion, so.
Okay.
I usually do it, throw it over the fence.
Start with who likes next.
Yeah.
I usually throw it in and then run.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll let you post.
sure. I don't care what other people think of me.
Um.
Okay. And then for our treasury report, we have the same amount of money, whatever that is. And yeah,
$332.46.
thank you. And you are now our default treasurer.
As long as I don't have to do anything really complicated.
We just have to list the position as filled. So, okay,
No problem.
thank you. That's everything I have. Anybody, anything else? Going once, we're adjourned. Thank you.